Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, home ownership is down dramatically in the state. We'll take a look at the numbers. Also tonight, our weekly legislative update with the Arizona Capital Times, and we'll hear about the lives of black migrant workers in Arizona. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Arizona had among the steepest declines in home ownership over the past 10 years. That's according to new figures from the U.S. Census Bureau. Here now to discuss the numbers is Catherine Rieger. She is real estate reporter with the Arizona Republic. Good to see you again.
Good to be here.
Now, these are census figures over the past 10 years, and not really a surprise that home ownership went down, but man, did it go down.
Yeah, almost leading the nation behind Las Vegas and Metro Phoenix. And you know, if you look back to, of course, the boom and bust and all the homes that went into foreclosure, short sales, and all the investors, I think more than 100,000 were bought during 2009 and 2012 and turned into rentals.
Yeah.
So they're not even up for sale if someone wants to buy them in most cases. So the opportunity isn't there. But I think, as we know, with what's going on with rentals, that not as many people want to buy right now.
Indeed. So again, was the biggest reason you think foreclosures?
You know, it's a reason why so many were turned into rentals, so that went away. But then again, we have this huge group, very interesting group of millennials, the 20-somethings
Yes.
to the early 30s, and different age demographics, say. But a lot we are finding, and I'm tracking it closely because they're key to our housing market recovery, coming back out of the stall, don't want to buy. They'd rather rent, and several reasons.
Yeah, I would imagine among the reasons they saw what happened when they were younger the last go. Not only millennials, but folks who did get caught up in losing a house or short selling a house. They're probably a little hesitant to get back in the market.
And a lot of that group, and they call them the group who could be millennials, could not, could be Gen Xers, baby boomers who lost a house. Many of those, that group, they call them boomerang buyers.
Yes.
Because supposedly they're going to boomerang and come back to the market. We're waiting to see it. A lot of those potential buyers, boomerang buyers, haven't been eligible to buy until now. And that group's just starting because that 7 years for foreclosure stuck on their record, and the lending guidelines are tougher than they were. So it was difficult to buy and find that 20% down.
I was going to ask about that. The penalties you received back in 07, 08, that 7-year time period is coming up, and that means those folks are now kind of let loose on the landscape, correct?
Yes. And the housing analysts and really everyone is watching for that group to come back. They're starting to see. Some were able to start buying a few years ago because they did it through the mortgage giants, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and they followed all the rules, so they got a shorter penalty. But not seeing that huge wave come back. So again, that goes to home buying and our home ownership rate. And of course, we led the nation, the top 2, 3 for foreclosures. So even though there's talk, a lot of those people who lost homes moved away, it's not really true. We're finding they're still here and they're just happy renting.
Yeah, indeed. Phoenix and Las Vegas 10.7% decline, Phoenix 10.6%, that's a lot. And Arizona was 8.1 from the peak in 2006. I guess Nevada was number 1 at 10% or something like that. North Dakota and Minnesota were up there as well. What was that all about?
That was surprising because in North Dakota's economy has done really well.
Yeah.
And Minnesota's done pretty well too, but Minnesota and North Dakota are attracting younger residents going for the jobs because they do have jobs. Particularly North Dakota has a thriving job market for its growth, so it very much could be that. I mean, they didn't have the boom and bust at all that we did, so I don't think we're seeing that. But those could be these millennial hot spots we're hearing about. And Minneapolis is popular with
coming
them.
in to rent for a while, and once winter comes, they decide, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else.
And yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And they can find a job and make good money, and their rents are much cheaper there than here.
So foreclosures, have we bottomed out with that? Is that pretty much in the rearview mirror?
Yes, and that is something different from Las Vegas because they've seen an uptick in foreclosures again, and we are not. We are back to 2007's level, which was still the boom level. Our home prices had just started to drop, so people were not losing houses. And we have seen that consecutively month over month. You know, we were at $5,000 a month in 2009, 2010, now we're at like 400. So.
What about foreign buyers, Canadians? How's that dynamic working?
You know, Canadian buyers thankfully drove the market with home sales, and they bought a lot of foreclosures and short sales. What's going on with the currency change has changed that a little bit. And it's not Canadian buyers who are our biggest out-of-state buying group anymore. It's back to Californians who led, the out-of-state buying trend for several years. So could that be the economy there? We are much more affordable, of course, and coming to jobs. We're seeing it's also the early retirees, the baby boomers coming out here, and they can still sell there and buy a house here.
So, and we've had Mike Orr on numerous times talking about, and things are just kind of stagnant. They're in a lull right now, but when they get out of that lull, it could be crazy times because the supply is so low. Is that what you're hearing too?
Definitely hearing. I mean, I'm hearing from the people who have their house on the market and can't sell it. So I think demand is also down too. We very much have to address that. And people who have had their house on the market for 5-6 months, dropped the price, and good areas, in areas with good schools, areas that are closer in. And that's another thing about these millennials and people renting. The houses maybe they can afford to buy are out on the fringe, and they want to be closer in. And those they can't afford. But not seeing those homes move, and so supply is low, I think very much also due to homeowners taking their houses off the market because they're not seeing the demand. So we're in a mix right here. And I just like to say steady, but some areas are doing well.
Yeah, better boom than bust, and
Yes,
steady probably better than all.
And no boom or bust. And the way lenders with restrictions, no one is going to get a 0% down or 125% loan, and the federal government's not going to back that. But I think there have been issues with the 20% down or the 10% down. People just, incomes aren't at that level, can't keep up with that. So some of these changes where they're offering 3.5% down for a mortgage, maybe boomerang buyers and millennials, not to use the terms, but that's what we're calling them and watching, will be able to tap those loans. And they're just becoming available. So we're watching closely to see if that spurs sales.
All right. Well, we'll keep watching it closely. Catherine, always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Sawed-off shotguns, silencers, and nunchucks will be legal in Arizona under a bill being proposed by State Senator Kelly Ward. For more on that piece of legislation and other state lawmaker activity, we welcome Ben Giles of the Arizona Capital-Times. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hey, I want to get to that in a second, but first we got a lot of things are happening with the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Diane Douglas. Apparently there were some death threats against her and Leah Landrum Taylor, who works with her as well. What's this all about?
Yeah, the superintendent's office has turned over to the Phoenix Police Department some threats that were made, I believe emails sent to both Diane Douglas and also one of her deputies, former Senator Leah Landrum Taylor. There was even a letter sent to Landrum Taylor's home, threatening letter making reference to some meetings that the superintendent's office has had with the African American community, with the NAACP this week, and even she suspects that her tires were slashed. Apparently she was driving this morning and a tire blew out and it looked like someone had maybe cut the sidewall on her tire. So those are all being investigated by the Phoenix Police Department at this time.
And we don't know, no ideas as to who or why or?
No more information than that, although I guess there was the indication that maybe it had something to do with those meetings with African American community leaders. Interesting.
All right, and also regarding Diane Douglas, now this dispute with the governor and the dispute as to who has what power over the Board of Education, is that fine? We're going to get a resolution to this thing?
There could be one tomorrow. There was actually a bill that Senator Kelly Ward was preparing as a striker earlier this week, just in approps this week, that would have basically settled the dispute legislatively. It would have taken out language that created this murky situation where Diane Douglas was claiming that she had the authority to fire employees that were essentially hired by the State Board of Education. The State Board said, no, we don't think you do. Ducey, the governor, said, no, I don't think you do either, and reinstated them. And what Douglas had always said was, why don't we just solve this legislatively, and then we won't have this legal fight here. So Senator Ward is trying to strike a amendment to a House bill in a Senate Education Committee tomorrow morning. This word just came in from the superintendent's office, and that could at least settle this one issue that the superintendent has squared off with the board.
And I know the original bill that was held in approps, I guess, because of some language considerations, but then obviously the amendment, the striker, was going to be
right and
advanced.
And at this point, there's just not enough time to send a bill through the normal channels. The deadline passed last week for a Senate bill to be heard in Senate committees. The same goes for the House, so that's why you're seeing a strike everything amendment to change a House bill.
And the bill would, the board supervises the workers' duties, not the superintendent. Workers get travel reimbursement from the board, not the superintendent. She's going to get clarification, but it's not to her liking, I would imagine.
Well, she has claimed all along that under the current law, her claims are valid, that she does have the authority to supervise, to direct these employees of the Board of Education. So maybe it's not something that she wants to happen, but at least this will set aside this, what seemed to be this giant legal storm brewing between her and the governor's office when the firing and the not firing happened. So at the very least, it will put that fight behind everyone.
One last education note, the Senate votes to preserve Common Core. Are you surprised by that?
No, last year, in fact, the Senate fought back multiple efforts to attack the Common Core standards in a variety of ways. The latest this week was another bill sponsored by Senator Ward that would have allowed local school districts to adopt their own standards rather than, as we do now, the state board adopts standards for everyone and the school districts have to implement those. And it was killed pretty resoundingly with 19 votes in the Senate. The House has passed measures as well to try and attack these standards, but I think as long as the Senate and a couple of senators are around to fight it, it seems like Common Core will be here to stay. Interesting.
The common denominator on everything we've talked about so far is Senator Kelly Ward, and we'll finish up with what we started with, this idea of sawed-off shotguns, nunchucks. I don't think grenade launchers were included, but you correct me if I'm wrong. What is going on here?
Not grenade launchers, but silencers as well. This was an amendment to a bill of hers, fairly non-controversial one, that was designed to allow criminals who have a felony conviction set aside after they've served their felony, after they've served their time, basically. They can get their gun rights restored if they've had one felony conviction.
Right.
And that seemed to be skating by in the Senate, until there was an amendment that she added that repealed all of these bans the state has on things like, as you said, nunchucks, on sawed-off shotguns, on silencers and muzzles for firearms. And the amendment passed, but it seemed like in just a matter of 12 or 24 hours, everyone kind of realized exactly what passed. And now the bill had been scheduled for a final vote in the Senate earlier this week. It's been held. I haven't seen anything about it since, and the Senate President, Andy Biggs, said, I think Senator Ward needs to counter votes on this one.
Interesting. Before you go here, is Senator Kelly Ward, is she the star of this session so far? It seems like everything we talk about she's involved with.
She's got dozens of bills she's sponsoring. A lot of folks at the Capitol say she's a fighter for her legislation, and that makes her a good sponsor. She's not one to give up very easily. On the other hand, she's also not afraid to tackle the controversial stuff, and her sincerely held beliefs about Second Amendment rights, and that's popped up several times in her into her third-year tenure at the Capitol.
All right, good stuff. Good to have you here, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Although Arizona has never been home to a large number of African Americans, there have been pockets in rural parts of the state that drew black migrant workers who came to Arizona to join others in picking cotton. Here to tell us about the lives of those migrant workers is Dr. Gita Lesueur, a professor of Africana Studies at the University of Arizona and the author of the book, Not All Okies Are White: The Lives of Black Cotton Pickers in Arizona. It's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining us.
Quite a treat.
Well, that's nice. Not all Okies are white. Explain that title.
Okay. It came out of nowhere actually, but what I was thinking, I was very impressed and charged up by the book, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck when I was in high school. That's how that book stayed with me. And there was something about oppression and not having anything. I'm a migrant child myself. I came from the Caribbean. Here I was born in Jamaica. My mother came here to work in the government service of the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. And so that was supposed to be a good thing, which was wonderful, but the whole thing is turned on its heel when I came here. And so that the people who were migrants were opposite. It was not a big deal. It was just a bad thing to happen to them. So that story stayed with me. And for some reason, I went on and got my degrees, et cetera, et cetera. And life went on until something else brought it back, out of my childhood to my maturehood, if you will. And so that's the black Okies, that people who suffered like Steinbeck's Okies were also black and other people of color. And
came to Arizona, went out to California, I guess some even stopped probably in New Mexico,
right, yeah,
to pick cotton. And there's a town that you focus on, Randolph, Arizona.
That's correct.
Where is Randolph, Arizona?
Randolph is about maybe 8 miles or so off of I-10, off 87, Route 87, going towards Coolidge. When you come up I-10, you'll see a sign for Coolidge and the ruins, which is what tourists see.
Yes.
So they're going to fly right by Randolph and head for Coolidge and the ruins, and never see Randolph. Even today, people who pass it every day don't even know it's there. It's nondescript. It just sits like a rundown place. No markers. The marker for the town, you don't see it until you're about maybe a few yards from the place. I wouldn't even call it a town, itself. So it's very easy to miss.
And these folks settled in Randolph. This was a town that had the black migrants, the cotton pickers, if you will. And you interviewed some folks there.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I think they didn't come to make a town like they did in the old days, where the pioneers, would do that. They'd make homesteading market. This is mine. They came because of the cotton industry, which people don't know is one of the largest producing money in the state of Arizona. When I came here, I understand there were like 3 or 4 C's, cotton, cattle, and citrus.
There you go.
Then they added climate after that.
Yes, they did.
But then they added the pickers. And cotton is really, really, really brings in a lot of dollars for Arizona. I mean, in the picture of the world, it is the largest producer of cotton. I think it's going down now. What we're seeing is empty fields, we're seeing real estate, shopping malls, et cetera, et cetera. But these people had worked the land for so long.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. These people, we're very familiar with the story of black people in the South going north for opportunity and for jobs. These folks went west. Why?
Which is fascinating.
Why did they do that?
Well, there's something called the Great Migration. You probably heard of that. It's part of the whole emancipation thing when slavery ended. Not everybody went north. Some stayed in the South, actually, and found work around the South. Some went back to wherever they came from. But a lot of them took the other route, which is the western route. And they came this way because they heard about work. They were seeing the same flyers. Work wanted, 100 men to pick acres and acres of land, good weather, all the things that the white Okies saw. And so that got around. It was an oral thing. And so they continued on that route. So we can find work, and it won't be cold, it won't be snow, all the inducements that the West brings, So they were no different from anybody else. And they were landless, exactly like the whites were.
And when you talked to these folks, and again, we're talking maybe 1930s to the 1960s, they made this trek.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, if you talk to the people, the dates they'd give me was in the 30s, the first group, and then of course that continued until the 50s when the machines came in, and as people said, it took the food right out of our mouths.
So interesting. What did they tell you about their lives, the families, the community? What was it like back then?
It was hard. But what was touching for me, I actually cried sometimes when I'd hear the stories they tell, is that, you know, it was hard, but we made it. They never complained. How noble is that? You know, they said, well, our family, you know, like family picking together, just like the Hispanic, you know, migrants and so forth. They said, you know, we had a home for our kids. We knew where they were. They picked together. And even though the children didn't get a proper education, because, you know, they always had to help the family to pick, to make the money, hoard the money to be better. It was okay. Then some people say, you know, it was no different than slavery.
Yeah.
I heard it over and over again. As if they just took it. And some people said it'd be like Uncle Thomas, you know. You mean they're going to take this and not doing it? That was the way of life for them. They didn't, I think they were realistic about how far they could go with what little they had. They brought everything with them, chickens and an old truck and a lot of the similarities of the other migrants moving across the land. And they just, my question was, why here? Why Eloy? Why Mobile? Why Coolidge? Why those other little, Rito, the little town near Tucson? Yes. They were everywhere. That's where the jobs were. That's where the crops had to be picked. And they were contracted, obviously. White landowner farmers would go back to those places and pick up trucks full of people, or would accompany them. I'm going to bring my uncle. I'm going to bring my cousin. Oh, you know, it's a nice young boy back there. He needs to get out of Arkadelphia or Hugo, Oklahoma, or wherever. And so it's the whole progress of the whole migration is so fast because of the way they came and stayed. And once they knew everybody and knew each other, there they were.
Interaction with Latinos, interaction with American Indians, interaction with whites. Talk about that dynamic.
Interaction with Native Americans is the newest thing for me, because actually in the book I interviewed a woman named Myrtle Jordan. She's from the Pima Indian from the Gila River Reservation. And I didn't know that Native people were picking with the black people and the white people. They came off the reservation to make money like everybody else, so much per pound for cotton. And there she was. And while she was there, she met a black man who she subsequently married and had a bunch of children with. I won't go into her life, but we talked about that this morning. But she was fascinating. The Native people were there, the African Americans were there, and as you know, the Hispanic people were there. But the biggest pickers were the black pickers, because I don't know, money or how much they could pay, experience. They had experience, you know, picking. They would brag even about their cotton picking. One was that she could pick a lot more than her husband. She said he could never make 100 pounds, honey. I beat him every day, you know. And it was great, you know. They just took it in stride. That was their life, you know. Even though things weren't great and there are a lot of oppressive things happened to them. Things were stolen, you know. People got into fights, and you know, Randolph and Eloy, all those little cotton towns had similar experiences.
Where did they go when the machines took over?
Some of them went to pick fruit in California, because some of the men left first. What I would see when I started doing the story there, which I didn't intend to, just turned out it was a great thing to do, was that there were very few men. The presence of women and children were the largest, you know, population that I saw. So I wanted to ask questions, why? Just like you just asked me, why? They said, you know, where they got to find work, they send money back home.
The migrant story, isn't it?
That's right. They send money back home. And if they die and get sick, they come back. They don't die and get buried there, which was interesting. They come back to be buried in Randolph and Eloy and all those little places.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's really something else.
Did anything surprise? We got about a minute or so left.
Yeah,
did you? Obviously, you learned a lot. But what really surprised you here? Was it something in particular?
That they were so patient about everything, an understanding about everything, and no bitterness. I'm not saying that some weren't bitter and got in trouble and drank a lot and did things like that, but it was just the patience and the fortitude and all of that. It was, I call them noble people, really, because, you know, you don't catch too many of those these days. But that's what really amazed me. It amazed me that there were some in there, even though there was one woman, just as a side here. She came as a contractor, means that she'd bring workers back for the farmers, okay? But she never picked cotton. She felt way above that. But she made cotton ornaments, like to decorate her house, you know, and she opened a daycare. But you see, there's that too. So, but they didn't take that story outside. And it was difficult, let me tell you, sir, that when you go into what I call a closed society, people are very secretive.
I'll bet.
They're very protective of their stories, and I was fortunate to get as much as I did.
Well, we have to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh,
We
yes.
very much appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Good to have you here.
Glad to do it.
That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.